Alright, hello YouTube and welcome to another educational cast. So we're gonna spectate a low elo game. Let me check what are the names already. Okay, got it. Uh, Sorry, I'm a bit too fast here. But yeah, I tried earlier to have another one. Um, so since the daily cast is short, we're gonna have an extra game. This will be in the series of the educational cast. Sorry, this is a hard word for me to say, but easy to write. Um, so yeah, so low elos as we said, um, but we're gonna see. So we're emphasizing to what they can improve, and sure there will be some laugh. That's the general rule you need to consider. There will be some laugh because there are some things that we do not expect, of course. Uh, but we mostly emphasize into what can be improved and what are the mistakes here. Okay, so here first we see some unique builds. So Friendly Steve does go for the APS paired with some protons. So APS is quite weak early on in terms of stats and everything. But I do see that this positioning does allow the APS to tank for the proton, so it's not the end of the world. But the ramp up of this build is just so slow because you lack the tank, right? So if you want to make use of the APS, you probably want to have. Oh, wait, that was a Windhawk start dying to a Snell from Teal. We do have the Butcher start from Hermiton. It can be good if you have the right follow-up. He does have Gargoyles, so I do think he will go for that. He has to stay 4 workers, unfortunately, because what he wants to have is the Gargoyle and then the Green Devil on the following wave to protect your Butcher. So that's why it's a slow start, but you do have the APS start as well. Staying at 3 workers, not even pushing the 4th worker. Uh, and sorry, I did miss this build here. Going for the Harpy frontline to give the time because he's not playing a tier 1. So most likely you prefer to start at least with a tier 1 when you're playing a Harpy, at least to have a front line, or go for your big tank first and then build your Harpies. Also, building your steeds at the back just delays the time before they can give their mana to the Harpies, because they can only give the mana once they reach the wave. It was a 5 worker start here, despite the Windhogs here from Teal, and so it does allow him to get a 60 Sen on wave 2. But we did have a 3 worker start from Friendly Steve, and so he should be able to hold that off. But looking at that, it might still be a very small league, and so that's why uh, normally you don't see this kind of stuff here because you don't have a good tank on wave 2. And if you want to do this, you normally want your APS a little bit later on, so you start with your atoms at first, and you can easily have 2 atoms, even a third one, I believe, if you stay 3 workers, that is, uh, to resist wave 2. But you don't need much to resist wave 2 when you're playing atoms. Like, you place your 2 atoms in the way you would put the APS, but on the wall here. And then on wave 2, if you don't receive, you just build your little proton here, or maybe a ranger. And it does allow, I think it's just a proton here in the split. And it does allow you to start with 4 workers and probably hold this cent, the 60 cent, or maybe make it very small. Already a sell here. You want to avoid to sell this early on because every single drop of gold is very important for you. And oh, when there's a tank mercenary, the Atom is tanking for APS, and this will result into another leak for Steve, despite staying at 3 workers here. So there's a slight misconception that I will address at the end of this wave, but it does seem it will be a hold anyhow from Friendly Steve. Here Rexall going a lot of Harpies, but no frontline yet. So I do hope he will be able to to build a front line soon, because he will struggle with those harpies after all. But it's going for more harpies, so this is something else that we'll need to address. Okay, so misconception here first. When you receive a sand and you don't hold it, it does not mean you must not push. It just means that you need to push a little bit less that you would have normally. So receiving a total of, I think a total of 80 right now, and now it is a total of 120. So one could expect you to be around, normally if you hold, around 7 workers. But since you have trouble holding, then at the end of this wave, you probably want to be at least 6 workers. Uh, that would be crucial. And you also have a decent tank in the Wanderers now. So you can afford to push those extra workers, pushing to 6 workers. So this is the correct play here. So only wanting to stabilize is still fine, but you still need to try and push those workers nonetheless. So despite not having the front line, still okay on wave 4 because harpies are good there. But now the troubles can come in for him because he still doesn't have his front line. Possibly going for the Grawl here, that could save him. Going for the Grawl up front behind this harpy could be good. But there's the problem, is that if he does not remove that harpy, I was going for the Sky Queen, not even a tank here. Okay. Sorry we don't spend too much time into the Butcher here. And the Windhog, because there is a lot more sense coming onto them. So and so without tank, yes, Sky Queen do a lot of damage, but is it tanky enough to fend off wave 5? It looks like it will be enough to hold wave 5, despite this little inconvenience. We do have the Atom always dying here beside the APS because he does not have a frontline yet. But once he have the frontline, the Atom should be living a little bit longer. But it's still a hold. And now we do have, wait. How do we have 9 workers here? Oh, is he receiving? Oh, okay, yeah, okay, he's quite far under now. So a little bit of a over push, I believe, here. Because yes, you're very strong on wave 6, but then you look at wave 7, you probably need your canopy to hope and do a little bit of damage. They're still saving on you, Rexel that is. And 8 workers on Ermiton, because there is a low worker amount on red. But let's see here, a lot of sense here, trying to catch back up in income and on value to use that worker lead that they have. So very good. And those Wanderers are now able to at least protect a little bit of the Atom. It's a rough life to be an Atom here. But the Sky Queen, still without any frontline, is still doing a great job on wave 6 to that sen. So will be a hold here, but and now those Teed are good frontline for 7, so he might still be okay, but he needs to stay overvalued for that. Alright, so here is a long wave, and that might hurt both teal and yellow if they don't income send here. And oof, I think this god was just an income, but this is a 170 undervalue. Does get the canopy, but is it enough now? You do have some frontline, but oh, okay, it is a Hermit you're receiving. Hermit and Dino. Dino is a good set. Well, not the perfect set, but it's at least income. But the Hermit just does nothing here. You don't have AoE units, you only have single target damage on your opponent. And that does mean, and also this is a canopy receiving magic damage, and so should survive quite a long time and protect this Windhog. Windhog is tanking a little bit, which is the ideal case. But the Hermit on the other side was quite effective against the only damage source that is the Maiden from yellow. And also being 245 under shifting and Teal also canopy not enough to despite receiving not the best sun, let's say, but just because he pushed those workers a bit too hard. And so this will result into king damage. And that might be the reason why Hermit is so highly praised in, in low helo, because it always worked, I don't know. But we do have a Hermit going into the Sky Queens now. So yet again, Hermit not quite as effective. Mole would have been much better, because as it tanks first the Sky Queen, and also reduces their damage quite heavily. So more steeds coming from... Okay, yeah, so only more steeds coming from blue. Did he push to no send here? Wait. I'm sure he pushed to no send here. Might have been something. But we do have the boar here to try and have extra tanks for the Daphne and Atom. Will it be tanky enough to hold this 140 Sun? It might be enough. And is the Hermit enough here? I don't think the Hermit will be enough to make him leak. I do think the Sky Queen will do quite well with the additional harpies to give time. And yes, indeed, it will be enough time. And yes, the board is tanky enough to give enough time to the Daphne and the Adam to hold. And now, what was a worker lead for teal and yellow at the beginning is now a worker lead for, well, okay, it's not a worker lead yet, but we do have the value advantage and the king advantage on red and blue. I mean, not pushing too much here is quite fine for the Sky Queen player. Um, okay, first of all, it's a good thing because he still doesn't have a front line. But who needs front line when you have DPS, right? Uh, so that's the first thing. And also, well, Sky Queen does no damage on wave 9. So, I mean, he's 80 on over, does have the two Sky Queens tanking for the Harpies. I mean, they're still decent tanks to speak of, let's say, to be generous, on wave 9. And so it might give them enough time to kill some of the wave 9. It does seem like it will be a hold here, but the mole here against the canopy and the nightmare doing work. So mole is better against single target damage, as you've seen, and here, despite having no tanks, Sky Queen doing pretty well. So yeah, so one could say that, oh yeah, but he's receiving from blue that is higher worker, so he has more pressure. But that all started from him over pushing his advantage in the early game, and just leaking wave 7 was just very bad for him. And that leak only occurred because he pushed a bit too much workers. So yes, you had the worker advantage, but you did not. It did not result into. It did not result into you getting a value advantage. Shall I say it like that? Here, MPS coming in with one Daphne and two Adams. Is the tank line enough? I don't think so. So this might result into a leak. Here, despite not having tanks for the Sky Queen. Oh wait, he has a growl now. Okay, he has a growl. So now getting the front line, but I mean, this might be next level play, right? I mean, we always think of Sky Queen like you only need one Sky Queen, right? But if you have three, you have 3 times the damage, and so you don't need tanks, right? So that might be his thinking. But I mean, steeds are still decent tank, but you want the steed to stay alive. So I mean, I think it will bite him later after wave 10. But if he starts building the tank line now, he might be fine. So still income, and despite the leaks, we do have Teal still pushing, trying to keep up into the game. So that's the correct decision. He will I mean, this value is inflated by Giants now, so he's quite fine here. He has the income lead. Uh, red is still behind in income. Yellow is, yes, behind in workers, but ahead in income compared to red, but has less pressure on blue. So blue has pressure on teal, that has pressure on red, but red has, but it's just a problem that red has little pressure on yellow, but still leaks him, and yellow does not have pressure on blue. So we do have a hero on. Okay, so we're gonna discuss that. Hero on MPS here, giving bonus defenses for the Samurai Soul and the Eternal Wanderer. So that's normally why you want to use Hero, is to give bonus defensive stacks, because the bonus damage is pretty much non-existent, right? This is 2 damage on that, this is 6 damage on that. It's mostly for the damage reduction that you to take it. And so that's why that placing it for the Sky Queens is a little bit problematic, because, well, of course, now you've been using them as a tank, but later on you want your front line here, and so it would be much more valuable to have your hero on your Grawl that will be turned, I hope, into a Ocean Templar, or even wait and place your another Grawl here with Ocean Templar and protect those steeds. That could be another thing. And so investing into more Sky Queens here, uh, I mean, he's still like in the front line, so I don't think that 13 will be pretty. Going for king ups here on yellow and teal. Red is receiving income send still, and yellow is just not pushing. He's being overvalued since the last few waves, but now receiving king ups, still not pushing. It is really teal that is keeping them into the game with his worker push, trying to wait, blue pushing to no sun. Now that I saw. But that's just a result that yellow has no pressure on him. And despite him receiving king ups and him being overvalued quite a lot, uh, he's not sending yet. So possibly want to go for a long save, but onto what wave? So now getting a front line the King Claw, but he will have trouble. I mean, I was expecting him to have trouble earlier, but he's doing quite fine for himself, not having tanks. And Teal continuing to go for income, going to 20 workers now. And whoa, that was a last second send from yellow after income, and he pushed workers after. Oh my god. Okay, so the earlier you push workers, the better Mythium generation you get. That's the first thing. But the mimic got sniped here, and the Sky Queens are. I don't want to say it, but they are doing work, and they might hold with Sky Queens. Oh my god. Oh my god. But is he now the question is he weak on 15, or is the steed enough as a front line? Oh my god. Okay. So after the dust settles, we have massive overvalue on blue, not having pressure on from yellow. We will have red on value. And now we do have yellow going for income here. Okay, so let's see here. We do have income lead on yellow. He is lagging a little bit behind in terms of value compared to the others. Despite that, well, that's because he sent after income on wave 13. That's part of the reasoning. You lose a lot of gold if you send after income on a certain wave. And only 4 king ups here from teal onto red. So this one is going to late game. We do have a overvalue from teal going for the doppels, pretty vulnerable on 15. Will the 15 cent come? That is a question. And yes, blue is sending on 15. So this will be disastrous. Well, only for teal, because yellow is not receiving a cent here. And so I do believe that he will be able to cover. Well, he's going for. Why is he building the LEDs that far behind? So we're gonna make the argument here. The further behind your DPS is compared to your front line, the later they will deal damage to the wave, right? So this means that your front line takes way more punishment before your DPS comes in. So yes, you might say, oh, it's only 1 or 2 hits, right? But it makes sometimes a difference. It sometimes makes a difference. Sorry, for English here. But now that was a shaman after income here, uh, joining blue onto his sand, and even despite having the LDs, is not a hold from blue. It is not a hold from the double player. Uh, Building full for 16 here, but everybody is leaking here. But this is a 2 shamans with 2 full HP boss against a 50% HP king. This is enough to kill them, and the huge well, I mean, I thought that not building. I really thought that not building tanks with RPs wouldn't work, but he proved me wrong. But that's mostly because he did not have pressure from. No, I did not level up. I was spectating again. Okay, that's just a bug. Uh, but yeah, so I mean, the build up here, no tier 1 on blue. Normally, that's not something you want. Normally, you want your seed also further up, uh, so that they start generating mana for your harpy a bit sooner. Butcher start here, a punished 5 worker start on the Windhawk here as well, expecting a king up, I suppose. And here also he sold a Polywog to get a Windhawk. He possibly wanted to have a Devilfish here for wave 2. And so he's much better off trying to build it on wave 1 right off the bat to be safe. Of course you can risk it and only build a Windhawk. That is a possibility. But if you take a little bit more time to get your fifth worker, first you're way safer if you didn't get a 20 on 1, and second, you can still get your fifth worker during wave 2 without any issues. Slow start from red here, but a yellow playing very safe. Just considering him staying at 3 workers for a long time. And here, I said that, well, he could go for Gargoyle here and be fine, but deciding to go for this mask here was problematic here. Yes, he pushed to 5 workers here, but I think that was well, not a mistake to speak of. He's still fine on wave 4. To the 60 cent. Well, okay, so he's pushing to no sense. So normally you want to push only when you receive a sand, unless you're waiting for a breakpoint, right? So if you're waiting, if you're starting Gate Guard, let's say, if you're waiting on your Harbinger, which is a huge power spike for you, then it is alright to not push workers right away, and then push the wave after, even though you didn't receive a sand, but you need to still control your push because you need to remember the other guy is saving on you. He might not resend, but if he resends, that's good for you, right? But still, you need to accept that you're a little bit behind the worker game when you do that. So still Final 4 does have a decent, also decent on wave 5. And here, you see a lot of income sense here. And look at this. Here, you see 20 on 1, 20 on 2, 40 on 3, pushes to 6, that's fine. 20 on 4, pushes to 7, that's fine. And then, no sense here. 8 workers and 9 workers. That's the problem here. Pushing 2 workers to no sen will always be problematic for you. Yes, you might be close to value, right now, but you need to look what are your weakest wave. Yellow might be a bit thrown off here because he sees, oh wait, I've got my Green Devils, I've got a Windhawk, I've got Maiden, I'm very good with 7, I've got Frontline, I've got damage, but then Hermit comes, and your Maiden just does nothing. And also, he full shifts here. He decides to full shift, being 245 under. That is something you never want to do. Uh, you can accept the fact that you're 30 under, 50 under, or 90 under even if your build is fine on this wave. But you need to realize that your only source of damage can be exposed quite easily also. So you need to be careful with that. But the huge mistake here was a 2-worker push to no send from both players, yellow and teal. So I hope you liked this casting. I hope it was entertaining. And just to emphasize, the goal was not to laugh at the players and just spot the mistakes and see what could player do to improve. Not necessarily focusing on the builds. Yes, we do a little bit, but the decisions, what they could have done, looking at the values. Oh, you're overvalued here. You could have greeted a bit more, and things like that. So, well, if you like this format, yes, tell me. If you don't like it, any constructive feedback can be written in the commentaries below. And on that, gotta say thank you for watching, and I hope you liked it.